then this video is for you. But before we get to talking about that, I want to celebrate something that you did. A few weeks ago at our physical experiences, we gave away a whole bunch of money. That's right, you didn't mishear me, we gave away money. We were talking about stewardship, which is the use of God-given gifts and resources for the accomplishment of God-given goals and objectives. And it's one thing to kind of talk about this idea that, hey, God's given us a gift that we're to steward, but we're trying to figure out how can we help people really experience that? So we decided to give people some of our money. And the goal and objective that we gave to you was really, really simple. We said, we want you to do something kind for someone else. And so many of you did so many incredible things and you shared them with us. You gave money to food banks, you helped support local chaplaincy, you bought coffees for frontline medical workers. Some of you even invested in third world sustainability farming projects. It was absolutely incredible to see the way that you used our resources. Now here's the deal, if you don't believe in God or you don't think there's anything more to this life than just this life, then you shouldn't take the idea of stewardship seriously. But if you do, and even if you're not sure what God looks like, here's why I think you should take that idea seriously. Now, if you believe that there's more to life than just this life, what you're acknowledging is that you didn't create you. You didn't create the world around you. The materials that we have in this world are not yours. And if you don't own them, then what that means is you're simply stewarding them, which is the question I want to answer in this video. Why should we live as stewards? Because it's one thing to be like, yeah, Chris, look, I didn't create me, I didn't create the world that I live in, but why should I bother stewarding the resources that have been given to me? And luckily for us, Jesus tells a story that connects our life to this idea of why we should bother stewarding those resources. So I'm gonna let him tell you. Now, if you're new to the channel, first of all, we're so glad that you've stopped by. But what you might not know about Jesus is that Jesus was a master storyteller. And most of the time he would tell stories using these things called parables, which were stories about the world that had a meaning about heaven. And there's 40 recorded parables we have that Jesus told throughout his life. And of that 40, about 1/3 of them relate to money. And what's interesting is that Jesus never actually asked anyone for money. He never asked anyone to donate to his campaign. He never asked anyone to help him buy the latest donkey. But Jesus talks so much about money because money is constantly dominating our thoughts. We're thinking about, can I pay the bills? What car am I going to get? Am I going to get petrol? Where am I going to send the kids to school? And so Jesus would talk about this because much like today, money is constantly on our mind. And Jesus tells this story of a man who had a property and a business manager. And there was some shady stuff going on with the business manager. And so one day the owner calls the business manager in and he pretty much says, hey, you are fired. But before you leave, I need you to give me the final report so I can know what's going on. And the business manager, he's really switched on because he thinks, hey, like I can't just leave and dig ditches. I'm not strong enough to work manually in the field. So what he does is he starts to call all the people who owed his master something in. And he starts to slash their debts for them. It's incredible. And the master comes along and you think the master would be mad. But in fact, the master is actually proud of how shrewd the business manager is. And at this point, Jesus steps out of the story that he's telling and he actually addresses the crowd that was there. And he said, hey, it is true that the people of this world, and what he meant by that was anyone who isn't a Jesus follower, are more shrewd than the children of the light, which he meant people who follow Jesus. And I think what Jesus means by that is this idea that oftentimes as Jesus followers, we like to say one thing. We like to say that we believe in one thing or hold to one thing, but yet we do a completely different thing. And Jesus would say, hey, this business manager made no qualms about what he was about. He wanted to set himself up for success later, and so he organized and structured his life to move in that direction. And if that sounds a little bit harsh to you, Jesus actually says, hey, here's the lesson I'm trying to teach you. He says, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. Now, that might sound a little bit manipulative, but what Jesus is saying is, hey, use the stuff you have to benefit others. When you buy lunch for someone, they're more inclined to listen to you. When you drive someone somewhere, they're more inclined to listen to you. And Jesus is saying, use the stuff that you have to gain influence in the world. Really, if I could condense what he's saying down into one thing, it would be a shrewd steward so you can be a generous giver. Use what you have, leverage what you have to the benefit of others. Now, I don't know about you, but this whole idea of like, hey, be a shrewd steward so you can be a generous giver, to me, that kind of feels overwhelming. I'm like, well, where do I even begin? And so we've actually created something that you can see on screen called the generosity steps. We've kind of given them 4 steps to help you on a journey to become more generous. And the steps are pretty self-explanatory. If you've never given before, I want to challenge you to maybe give for the first time. If you maybe have given before, I want to challenge you to be generous occasionally. If you're generous occasionally, you kind of give towards missions, or you have a plan of how you plan to support your local church, then maybe what you want to do is take another step and become a percentage giver. And a percentage giver is someone who really has just decided, hey, there's a certain percent of my income that I'm going to be generous with. And then the next step, if you're already a percentage giver, is to become an extravagant giver. And an extravagant giver is someone who says, hey, I've already picked a percentage, but every year or every 2 years, I'm going to see if I can increase it just by maybe 1% to continue to be generous with what I have. So here's what I want you to do. All I simply want you to do is take a step on your generosity journey. Figure out where you are on that generosity ladder and then take one single step forward. And to make it even easier for you, we've got a link below for you to take part in something that we've called the 90-day generosity challenge. And we want you to sign up to the challenge, and then for 90 days, we're going to journey alongside you as you take steps to become a shrewd steward so you can be a more generous giver. And here's why I want to invite you into that challenge with us. There are times in life where we just simply need to be challenged. We need to be challenged to forgive. We need to be challenged to eat healthier. We need to be challenged to love others better. And if you're anything like me and you believe there's more to life than just this life, then sometimes we need to be challenged to start treating our money as if there is an eternity. And the reason we need to be challenged to do this isn't because God wants your money. It isn't because Jesus is trying to get his hands inside your wallet. It's because we need to embrace Jesus' perspective as it comes to money. Because if there's a life after this life, it lasts longer and it matters more than a life we're currently living. And God wants you to leverage what you have to make an eternal difference in someone's life. Think about this. When it comes to your funeral, is anyone going to talk about how many investment properties you had? Is anyone going to talk about how much money you made? The answer is no. The only time anyone ever talks about money at funerals is if someone's incredibly generous. So if someone's not going to talk about it in the end, why bother making it the focus of your life right now? So maybe the 90-day challenge is just what you need to see what Jesus' perspective really is on your money and reshape your own. So I challenge you, take the 90-day generosity challenge with us. It might just be the thing that changes your life for the better. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. We're actually out here at Caloundra today filming. Now that lockdown's lifted, we have the opportunity to get out, and we want to know in the comments, where would you like us to film in the future? Is there a scene or a setting that you have in mind that you think would be a great location for us to film at? And if you are new, I'd love to get to know you. So you can reach out to me on Instagram. My handle's @ChrisPodlick. I would love to hear a little bit about your story, and maybe you can let me know, where do you want us to film in the future?